Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to another episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It's the middle of the week, which of course you all know by now means it's match preview show time as we head towards another weekend fixture in Sky Bet League 2. And I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Sam Jordan, who's of course a Crawley Town fan. It wouldn't be anyone else, would it? Because that's who we're playing at the weekend. Sam, first of all, appreciate your time and welcome to the channel, my friend.
Thanks, Matt.
Good stuff. Right, let's get straight into this. You can follow Sam on X. I'll put his details in the description at the bottom of this video as always. So please go and give Sam a follow before, during and after the game for all Crawley perspective. And of course, being a Jules channel, we hope that he looks slightly more miserable than I do at 5 o'clock. No, not 5 o'clock, 7:30 Saturday
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Sky Sports have moved us around. So it's a tea time kickoff. Anyway, I divulge. Let's have a look at recent form for the Gills and Crawley. And in fact, it's our visitors that have better form over the last six than we do. They've taken 7 points from the last 18 available. Scott Lindsey's men. That's come in the form of wins in the most recent two against Fleetwood by 2-1 and Bristol Rovers 4-0. There was also a decent draw against Walsall a few weeks ago. There's also been defeats to Barrow, Cambridge and Shrewsbury Town, and they currently sit 19th with 15 points from their 15 games. Quickly, the Gills, it's just 4 points from the last 18 after that ridiculous unbeaten run that ended at the end of September. But we did get back to winning ways most recently, 1-0 at Bristol Rovers last weekend. The other point came against Cheltenham at home, and there's also been defeats to Harrogate, MK Dons, Grimsby and Salford. But we're back in the playoffs, and we sit seventh after Nott County's a Monday night victory. We have 25 points from our 15 games. Sam, I like to look at form and most recent form and only league form because I don't think FA Cup, League Cup, Virtu Trophy, that type of thing have any sort of bearing on league games in our level because the tendency is to rest and rotate and give minutes to those that need it. But it's difficult to gauge your form even looking at league games because it's been 10 against 11 in your last four fixtures if you chuck in an FA Cup game. But in your last three games in the league, you played against Shrewsbury with 10 men for 35 minutes, and then you've played against Bristol Rovers for 57 minutes. They had 10 men. And then you played against 10 men for 80 minutes last Saturday against Fleetwood. So the last time you actually finished a match 11 versus 11 was on the 11th of October. So do we look at the result against Walsall as the true reflection of the form? Because it's over a month since you actually played a game, essentially, where both teams managed to finish with all their quota on the pitch.
I think the pessimistic Crawley fans would say, although we've won our last two league games, that as you said, we've done it against 10 men. So it is really difficult to get our form. And in between that, we had an FA Cup defeat at National League Bournemouth, comfortably lost 3-0. So our form's so hard to predict. And then you add to that, in our last league game, we actually made five changes. I think Scott's kind of mixed it up a bit after a poor run of form. So I don't really know what Saturday's going to bring because I imagine we'll go a similar team to one that beat Fleetwood, but it's kind of had five changes from our regular starting 11, if you like. And yeah, we played really well against Walsall, probably deserved to win that.
Mhm.
Went to Shrews, we didn't play that well, and I've got a man sent off. And then, yeah, Bristol Rovers kind of the score probably doesn't reflect the game, albeit we did dominate. That they had 10 men, for large parts. And then Saturday, near the end, was a bit frantic, to be honest with you. Even though they had 10 men for 80 minutes, when they got their goal back and it was 2-1, it was quite frantic at the end. And we were kind of having the ball in the corner flag. And I was thinking, why are we doing this after only had 10 men for 80 minutes? So, yeah, I know our away form's the worst in the league. So we've won at Harrogate and drawn at Chesterfield. Apart from that, we've lost our other five games. So it's really hard to tell. It's kind of probably a good time to play yourselves. Obviously, not in the best run of form. Yeah, but I don't know. It's going to be a tough one to call, to be honest.
Yeah, I think in terms of us, if we'd not won on Saturday and not seen the game out, and let's be honest, I'm not going to sit here and say anything. Bristol Rovers had more ball, more territory, but in terms of XG for people that like that, there wasn't a lot of difference between the two sides. I'm not a big fan of it personally, but in terms of shots on target, I think it was 4-2, so there wasn't, it's not like they've had loads and loads. Our keepers had to make probably two or three saves. Their keeper saved a penalty. Um, I feel more confident, let's put it that way now, because our problem has always been over the last few seasons start really well, and then October and November it falls off the edge of a cliff. So there were starting to be little murmurings. Was it going to be a winless run that was turning into a potential crisis? Shut that down now. So yeah, has all the makings of a good game. And like you say, there's such a vast differential between your home form and your away form, because I think you sit sort of just outside the playoffs in terms of your home points
Yeah,
tally. I think you're just below us, but you are rock bottom in terms of on the road with just, I think it's 1 point from, no, 4 points from 21 available, which
yeah,
obviously needs to be improved on if you want to start moving up the table. Um, have to talk about Scott Lindsey. Obviously, he's an ex-Gills player. His dad used to play for us as well. I think he was linked to us a couple of times. Most managers have been, because such is the churn of managers that we've had over the last few years. Um, Obviously left a short while ago, having got you promoted, took the MK Dons job, to a mixed reception. I think a lot of fans understood that, more resources, bigger ground, that type of thing. Forget all the MK Dons franchise and all that for a second. It was a bigger
yeah.
ground, more resources, bigger infrastructure, that type of thing. It didn't work. So owners at the time were not too proud to say, right, do you want to come back and continue what you was doing when you got us promoted out of this league in 2023? Um, how was the reappointment of Scott initially received by the fan base? That's part one to my question, and then I want to ask you a part that sort of links into the change of ownership back in the summer.
I think it was the return of the Messiah, to be honest with you. And I feel for Scott in a way because he didn't do well at MK. He'll be the first to admit that. But since he's left, obviously they've had far more investment than he had
Mm,
when he was there. And you do wonder whether he was given a bit more time in the summer, what he would have done. Obviously, Paul Warren's the top manager, and I'm sure we'll get him promoted. But you kind of feel for Scott. Had he stayed there a bit longer, how would he have fared? And Scott's style of football is very unique. So when he goes into a new team, it's going to take more time to embed. But yeah, when he came back, it was fantastic. Everyone was really pleased. And kind of the majority of Crawley fans felt, well, this is too late. We're not going to stay up.
mm.
And then we kind of went on a really good run of form and just missed out by a point in the end. And actually, had he come back a couple of weeks earlier, you never know. We might be in League One still. So I think it was fantastic. Some would say probably, especially after the start of the season, was it the right move for him?
Mhm.
Because having kind of come back, having got his big move, as you say, to a club who is bigger than Crawley, did he make the right decision coming back? And I think only time will tell. I think it kind of links with the change of ownership, really, because Raf Khalili, who's now the owner, was the one who brought Scott back. So in March, he was kind of in the process of negotiations to take over the club, and he was the one who kind of went out and said to Scott, "I want you to come back, 3 year deal. You've got say on transfers, etc." So I don't think Scott would have come back on the previous ownership, but he's come back under Raf, who really rates him. So I think he's not only come back because of Raf, but also the fans like him. It's a very local club living in Kent. Obviously, the fantastic achievement he had in getting us promoted after keeping us up in the Football League as well. So yeah, I think the Crawley fans are really pleased to see him back. There's been a bit of discontentment after the last couple of games, especially Bournemouth away. Um, but we've won our last 2 home games, and I fully trust Scott will get it right. I think the problem with Crawley has had over the last few years is every summer we let our best players go and bring in new players, and it just takes time to gel. And we are a selling club, but it's kind of every summer we lose players. Was it be Russian Hepburn Murphy to MK, Junior Cantaro to Wickham? All our better players go, and then we got these new players come in. And this summer, no one can say anything other than it's been really poor recruitment. And actually, our better players this season are those who were here last season.
Okay.
And those who have brought in haven't really been good enough. So it'll be interesting what happens in January. There's been talk from Scott and the owner that Scott will get backed. And it's interesting because we're actually, the season we got promoted, we're actually 15th in February
Mm.
with 15 games to go and got in the playoffs. I'm not going to sit here now and say we're going to get promoted or get in the playoffs, but there is a long way to go, and it'll be interesting what the next few months bring.
It's interesting that you bring up recruitment, and that sort of leads me on to the next part of my question. Sort of did a bit of research. I knew that Wagme had sold their majority stakeholding. Preston Johnson's was the main sort of man that fronted everything while he was in charge. Um, Sold it to KB Sport and Leisure, which is the gentleman that you've mentioned. But he did an interview, I think, in July or August, where he said that the reason he was stepping back with a heavy heart and all them types of cliches, I understand that, was because he felt that the recruitment strategy was going the wrong way, a different way, which I did find odd because, like you say, that team that got promoted out of this division, then most of them just left, and a lot of them came
Yeah,
back into League Two, which, from an outsider's perspective, looked really odd. I
yeah,
remember Will Wright, who you'd signed off us, had an absolutely cracking campaign, scored against us against at Boxing Day, I think, a couple of seasons back. Ended up at Swindon, and you're thinking, like, what's going on? These players have all got you promoted, and it was very few that were left. It seemed just
yeah.
like a fire sale. almost to the point like there was financial issues rather than sort of trying to build on what Wagme had started. So, how much of a hindrance has that been on the recruitment throughout the summer? Was it a case of KB Sports and Leisure had to come in and just sit tight, and then you'll probably see the rewards of their ownership more in the January transfer window and next summer?
Well, interestingly, the sporting director, Tobias Phoenix, actually left a few weeks ago. So we'd assume that most of the recruitment was down to him.
Okay.
And it'll be interesting who comes in. I think after our promotion season before we League One, as you said, we lost a lot of our players. And I think there was a few mistakes made in contracts in terms of release clauses. And I think other players, pardon me, went on to get better money elsewhere.
Okay.
And I think this summer, probably we haven't got it right for whatever reason. I think probably we've maybe looked at players who haven't played as much, whether it be Reece Brown, who's Scott knew before, kind of didn't play last season, started the season, but kind of come out of the team. I think we need to get the right mix between data and obviously Scott having his say as well. I think before there was probably too much say from the data model perspective. I think he needs to get the balance right. But it'll be interesting. Scott's demonstrated he's a great manager. You could argue Wagme demonstrated they were good at recruitment because they recruited with Scott. Most of that team got promoted. So it'd be interesting to see what next steps are made now with the head of recruitment, director, or whatever role you want to call it, and what we do in January, and even in the next summer going into next season. Because this season, yes, okay, we've still got a slim chance of finding it at the top end of the table, but because of such a poor start, I doubt it. But Scott spoke a lot about this team's new and building a squad. And if you look at lots of Crew, etc., who have had the same manager for several seasons, they're still doing well. Matt Sadler at Walsall's another example. So I think we need to kind of have another couple of windows and then see where we are kind of this time next season.
Absolutely, yeah. It's almost like now is not a pre-season because, like you say, there's still 30 games to play, but it's a chance for Scott to assess the squad and then really put his stamp back on it in January and like you say, moving forward if he's given the chance to do so. So it'd be interesting to see how you progress. Talking of recruitment, obviously we all do our 1 to 24s in the summer. I think I had you 15th. A lot of that was because the takeover was just happening, so there was question marks around what was going to be happening moving forward from an outsider's perspective. Obviously, Scott Lindsey coming back, first window back as the manager again. A lot of your signings intrigued me, not all for the right reasons, because a lot of your players, I think, Sam, that came in, I thought were either going to be feast or famine, for want of a better phrase. The likes of Dion Pereira, who's was at Luton for years, kept getting sent out on loan, did all right here and there, had a really good season at Dagenham and Redbridge, so it could have been feast if he transforms that over into League Two form. Harry McCurdy, the enigma of League Two, had that incredible season, I think, under Scott, or for certainly a portion of it at Swindon a few years ago, and then career's probably come off the rails a little bit for various reasons. Ryan Loft wasn't exactly welcomed with open arms, I think it's fair to say. I saw a lot of comments from previous clubs as well. So to me, it was either going to be an absolute masterstroke or potentially an absolute car crash. Unfortunately, it's probably nearer the bottom at the moment. I think Pereira's got 3 assists. McCurdy's done all right, got 4 goals, 2 assists in the league. Loft's got 1, couple of red cards as well, which doesn't help. Got sent off in the cup, I think, didn't he, recently as well? How have you seen them though? Because you watch them every week. I can only look at highlights and look at numbers on a website and an app and that type of thing. But how have they been?
Yeah, the start of the season, Dion Pereira is actually out injured. So since he's come back, he's done okay.
Yep.
We've probably got some better wing backs, but I think we haven't seen the best of him yet. And because the likes of Pereira out injured, actually Harry McCurdy started the season wing back, and he didn't impress. And I think a lot of Crawley fans got on his back because of that. But since he's been in a number 10 role and up front, we've seen how good he can be. An absolutely interesting character, along with Jay Williams. I wouldn't want to be in a dressing room with them two after losing 3-0 away at Bournemouth, that's for sure. I think Harry's got a real potential to be a key player for us this season, scoring a couple of goals, getting assists, although albeit young, maybe not play loads of games recently. He's a bit of a leader as well. So he was out injured, for example, at the moment, but he was on the pitch for the game Saturday, helping the lads warm up. So I really like Harry. I think he's the sort of player that when he's on your team, you love him. When he's in the position, you hate him. Ryan Loft, I think that was a bit of a desperate signing, to be fair. End of the window closing, and we were like, who can we sign to play up front? I was quite shocked by it. His stats weren't great. He's done okay. I mean, he holds the ball up and he's strong, but he's not really a goal scorer. He's missed some
Mhm.
sitters and getting sent off twice doesn't help. So I don't think he's the future. It'll be interesting what happens in January, whether he goes back or not. I reckon we'll strengthen up front again. But we've had a lad who started Saturday for his first league start, Louis Flower, who's scored now back-to-back league games. And I think he knocked on Scott's door. Scott's he knocked on Scott's door and said, I want an opportunity. And Scott even admitted himself after the game Saturday, he probably should have given him a chance sooner. And he's taken his chance. So
Mhm.
hopefully he can carry on and take the opportunity while McCurdy's out injured and Loft suspended.
I like this. You're doing my job for me because I put one that went under the radar was the lad who I think was signed on a free transfer from Southampton. Was it? He got released. Yeah, hadn't really sort of spoken about him because you've got Danny Cashman, you've got
Yeah,
Kabongo Shamanga as well, who I'd probably put in the, you call it desperate. I'll be more polite as an outsider and say hoping they catch fire signing. Cashman had a decent season in non-league, but again, it's that
yeah,
transferring it up a division or two. Shamanga's always been similar to McCurdy. When he's at it, he's unplayable, but you don't see enough of them days, unfortunately, with
yeah,
Shamanga, and he's missed a few absolute sitters this season as well,
yeah,
unfortunately. But yeah, Louis Flower seems to have just come out of nowhere. I mean, he played 9 times in the league, but it's in the last few weeks that he's come to
yeah,
the fore. Back-to-back goals. I think he's got 3 contributions now in 9 games. Only 21 years of age. Decent hit at the weekend as well, to be fair.
yeah.
Yeah, looks like one that potentially maybe not started off as a fan favourite, but could end up being more key than you'd envisaged at the start of the campaign.
Yeah, he actually played quite regularly in pre-season before we signed Shamanga
Hmm.
up front, and then kind of didn't really get started in the league. Has come off the bench playing wing back, but not really in his favourite position up front. And then he scored against Bristol Rovers, which was a great goal, and then kind of deserved his start of the weekend, and kind of took the opportunity playing up front on his own. And he's a sort of striker when he gets it within 25 yards of goal, he's going to pull the trigger.
Hmm.
And we haven't really got that, but Harry McCurdy does it. But he's a bit more of a technical, skillful player than probably Louis Flower. But I'm quite excited to see Louis Flower play, and hopefully alongside Harry McCurdy as well in the future, he can bang a few more goals. And as you say, he's nice and young, hungry, and I definitely think you'll see him start up front on Saturday at your place.
Yeah, he looks like he's one certainly to keep an eye on, and he'd be a bit of a threat. You said McCurdy's potentially out injured as well. Is that the case? Or
Yeah, I'm not sure if back Saturday or not. So yeah, I think he's got a muscle injury, so I'm assuming it'll be a few weeks.
okay, fair enough. Um, Certainly in recent years, there seems to have been a relationship with the two clubs where we sign from you, you sign from us. Obviously, Will Wright, Tom Nichols, Glenn Morris, we've already mentioned. There is a picture of him. We can just about see not his head on the wall behind you, who's as loved by Gillingham fans as he is by Crawley fans. Absolute lower league legend for me, Glenn. Um, Scott Malone joined you.
Yeah, yeah,
Then
yeah,
he left you, and there
yeah,
was some sort of mystery surrounding it on social media. I mean, there was talk of some sort of something to do with betting. I don't know if that was just social media talk. Then he popped up at Cambridge back end of last season under Neil Harris because obviously he played for him at Millwall and Gills. And now he's back at Crawley again, and he's actually started all right, hasn't he? I think he's played 5 times in the league. There's a goal and an assist in there. But how important is someone like Scott Malone, mate, to the rest of the dressing room? Because
yeah,
looking at your squad, you've only got him, and I think it's Gavin Holohan over the age of 30. So it still is a
yeah.
relatively young squad. How important are him and the likes of Holohan in terms of just that leadership and that know-how when the tough runs do come? And you will have tough runs.
Yeah, so when we signed him last season, he actually played our first two games in League One at wing back, and we won both of them.
Hmm.
And then he disappeared, like you said, and lots of rumours as to why. And then obviously rocked up at Cambridge. His family live around the corner.
Hmm.
Didn't get a club kind of this summer, and I think kind of Scott, as you said, was like we need some experience. Lives around the corner. Let's give him a punt. He came in, obviously didn't play the first few weeks, building up fitness, but he's an absolute character. He's a leader on the pitch, and he's played the last few games. Fortunately, went off injured early on Saturday, so again, I'm not sure if he'll be fit for your place. But yeah, and at 34, he's playing wing back. I mean, so and he's getting forward and he's being aggressive and he's a leader. And I think he could be a big player for us this season if he can keep fit. And you could tell how gutted he was on Saturday when he came off injured. But probably when Scott signed him, he probably wasn't thinking about starting him regularly. He's probably a squad player off the bench, using his experience, maybe away from home. But with our injuries, he's been starting wing back, and yeah, he's been putting in some top performances. And yeah, he had a really good game against Bristol Rovers with a couple of goals and assists. So yeah, hopefully we can get him back fit.
So another one question marks for Saturday. Yeah, it did sort of get my attention when I saw he started wing back because again, might only be rumours, but there was rumours when he left us that he was struggling to train regularly because of a back problem. So
Yeah.
you then see him pop up and he's playing left wing back, and you're thinking, poor old sod at 34. I mean, me sitting here at 43 can't run a bath, to be fair. So I'm sure he's absolutely fine compared to the likes of us. But yeah, it did seem an interesting one, and obviously we wish Scott a swift recovery if he doesn't make it for Saturday. Right, final bit, mate, before we start blowing full time. Historical head-to-heads. There's not loads to go off. Obviously, you spent a lot of time in non-league. We've played 16 times since 2005. It's been 9 wins for the Gills, 3 draws, and 4 wins for Crawley. 22 goals for us and 17 for you. And at the Priestfield, it's 8 games, 5 wins for Gills, a solitary draw, and 2 wins for Crawley. But you did win on your most recent visit, that 2-0 win Boxing Day 2023. 9 goals to 6 in our favour. Um, you're coming off the back of back-to-back wins. Confidence will be high. We're coming off the back of a first win in 6 or 7 in the league, so confidence will be better. Score prediction.
I think I spoke to a lot of Crawley fans. They'd probably say I'd take a draw. And I think
Hmm.
of the back of 2 wins, it'd be good to keep the momentum going of being undefeated. And we
Hmm.
know that Gilling's a tough place. So I imagine Gareth Ames will be back in the dugout for the first time in a while Saturday.
Uh,
So,
he's not in the dugout.
oh, he's not?
He watched it
Okay.
from the gantry. I think that's going to be the case for a while. Yeah, so he's at the
Oh, is
games.
it?
He's
Okay.
doing everything. He's
Okay,
just not
fine.
allowed on touchline at the moment, just in case. So
But yeah, I think look, I'll take a point. I can imagine there'll be goals. So I'm going to go for a 2-all.
I've gone 2-1 Gills. I was sort of erring between 2-0 and 2-1, and that's purely off your away form, where you've
Yeah.
scored 4 in 7. So you struggle on the road. You've then said McCurdy might not be fit, Scott Malone might not be fit. Not that you've not got other players, but they're 2 big players for you in terms of experience and that ability to win football matches in a moment. So yeah, you've said their goals. I was erring between 2-0 and 2-1, so I'm going to say Gills nick it body or goal, 2 goals to 1. I've put down Seb Palmer, Holden, and Robbie McKenzie to score the goals, which invariably means they won't because I'm rubbish at these predictions. Right. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate. I want to say thank
No
you again.
worries.
Really, really enjoyed this. Gills fans and Crawley fans and any neutrals, if you are watching, you know what I'm going to say. Thank you for watching to this point. It really is appreciated. We're going to go for 80 likes on this match preview. So if you can go down there, click like. While you're at it, just move along, press subscribe. That'd be absolutely brilliant. Just over 30 away from 4K subscribers now. And I keep telling you, there will be a prize giveaway for someone once we get there. So the quicker you do it, the better is for one lucky winner. We'll be back in the ground, of course, Saturday tea time, myself, Ava, and whoever else is about for a match day live. And then, of course, we'll be back Sunday evening reviewing it. But until then, hope you have a good week. Thanks again to Sam. And most importantly, up the Gills.